The Onimusha anime has finally gotten an official trailer, and today I wanted to do a video talking about some of the things that I've noticed within the trailer, talk about what I assume is going on with the story, as well as a couple of other things here and there that are essentially related to Onimusha and the lore. That being all said, without any further delays, let's get right into this video. So there's a lot to unpack in this trailer, and even in the beginning there's quite a bit to go over. In the very beginning, we have Musashi showing off his abilities as a warrior to a monk who's been keeping the Oni gauntlet at a temple. Now, we don't know if this Oni gauntlet had belonged to Samanosuke or if this was just a random Oni gauntlet that belonged to any previous Oni, samurai, or ronin within this franchise that we just don't know about yet. We just know that they had an Oni gauntlet and Musashi has to prove his abilities as a warrior in order to receive the gauntlet for safekeeping. The monk specifically mentions too, when he's handing him the box that contains the gauntlet, that he needs to adhere to a strict 33-day schedule. I don't know the significance to this strict adherence to the schedule. I've never seen this before. I'm not necessarily sure if it has any significance within the lore, considering the fact that within the games at least, when Samanosuke first encountered demons and he got knocked out, he was given the Oni gauntlet via Oni spirits. And in Onimusha 3, when Jacques sees an illusion of his son being harmed, he ends up panicking and receives an Oni gauntlet in a similar fashion. So I'm not really sure what the significance is with this 33-day schedule. It's kind of weird because at least in the games we almost get it within a few minutes. I don't think 33 days had gone by when we got these gauntlets, but I don't know. You tell me on that one. As we go along with this trailer though, we do see one of the companions that Musashi will be traveling with in this anime, and it's a child who mentions that her village had been burned down, her parents had been kidnapped, and that Musashi made a promise to kill a particular samurai. And Musashi's response is that he would only do it at a very particular point in time that he chooses or he decides. I'm not sure about the significance of that, but just to kind of speculate on a potential parallel from real life history that could be in reference to Kojiro Sasaki. He might be saying that he will pick and choose when he will fight that particular warrior, as opposed to just going right off the bat and just trying to face him right at the very particular moment that they're speaking, because it is something that he wants to be mentally prepared for and physically prepared for, and that's why he's being a little bit more picky about when he's choosing his battles. Which makes sense, because the real life Musashi was very much particular about the fights that he was picking. He was picking very particular individuals to fight, and he knew exactly how to fight them, be it with psychological warfare or just adapting on the fly with whatever means necessary. So I think that this is really drawing that parallel to real life history, which is really cool to see. Now, immediately after that, we do have a shot of a samurai, or somebody who might not necessarily be a samurai, but somebody who has power, and is mentioning that they would like to see an end of the samurai. They're not particularly name dropped in this trailer, and I don't think there's any information regarding who this character is as of yet. So this could be Kojiro Sasaki, but it could be just an original character, or just somebody that I'm not thinking of at this particular point in time. So for now, we're just gonna assume that this might be Kojiro Sasaki, but it probably might not be. So just some food for thought. We're just gonna assume that for this particular moment, but things could change as more information comes out. And then after we get introduced to this samurai, there is a bit of a nod to Onimusha 2, where the child is saying, oh, the forest has changed. Now, for those of you that remember Onimusha 2, or maybe for those of you that haven't played it or don't remember playing it, in Onimusha 2 there's a point where you have to go back to the Yagi village, go through a passage, and then it leads to a forest, and within that forest it is cursed by a particular Genma, and if you choose very specific routes, then you'll be able to find your way out. But if you keep going in circles and keep choosing the wrong path, eventually you'll be helped out by Kotoro Fuma. And Kotoro Fuma will show you the proper way to get out while you're stuck there looking like an idiot, not really knowing how to get out. So I thought that was kind of interesting because they mentioned, oh, well, the forest has changed, so maybe it's turned into a bit of a maze and they're potentially going in circles. On the other hand, it could also mean that they're saying that it just has changed as far as the overall mood and the environment has changed because they feel like there's a presence there, being that it could just be regular Genma that are roaming the forest now, and it feels very different at that particular time. So just some food for thought, but either way I thought it was a nice little nod. So we then get a couple of shots of Musashi and some other warriors that he's accompanied with fighting regular foot soldier Genma, which I thought was really neat to see. And then we see him put on the Oni Gauntlet. Now, the Oni Gauntlet in this anime is very interesting because it just automatically starts glowing purple as soon as he puts it on. Now, I'm not sure why it's doing that. Initially in my video where I talked about the screenshots that were released, I had mentioned that I thought it could potentially be that Musashi had killed a powerful Genma and it's just glowing that way because of that. And it looks like that's not the case. It looks like it just happens to glow that way, and that could be for one of two reasons. It could be that they wanted to just go with that for a visual aesthetic, and there's nothing lore related as to why it just does that. The other reason could be that it is containing the soul of Nobunaga Oda, and this is Samanosuke's gauntlet. The only reason why I'm bringing that up is because in Onimusha 3, at the end of that game, Samanosuke's gauntlet was black and red. However, in Dawn of Dreams, it reverted back to being gold. So it could just be that potentially they wanted to go with a different visual aesthetic to basically give us the same idea that the gauntlet has reverted to a different state, or it still contains that soul, it just didn't remain that particular color for whatever reason. But likely it might not be that. It might just be that they wanted to make it look visually appealing and they wanted to go with that particular color distinction. So that's what I'm thinking is going to be the case, but it might not be. Also, what I thought was interesting is that the orb that's within the gauntlet is glowing a light blue. Now, in the trailer, Musashi does not get any elemental weapons. However, that could just be that he hasn't actually taken out the weapon that's sealed within that gauntlet via the orb. But I could be wrong, and it could just be what it's supposed to look like in its neutral state when it doesn't have any elemental weapons inserted within the gauntlet. It could be that. So after we see Musashi put on the gauntlet, we see the trailer kind of jump around a bit to different scenes. We see various different higher level Genma. We see what looks like his duel with a potential Kojiro Sasaki, because again, I thought that other character might have been that, but he might not be. It might actually be this warrior that's dressed in all white and just full-on Genma, which would make a little more sense, I think, and I could see that being the case. It's a very hectic trailer once we start jumping around all over the place. What's really cool, though, is that we also get to see a couple of shots of what looks like Musashi performing Isen attacks, which is this style of attack that we get in the Onimusha games, where if you attack at just the right moment, you get a flash of white light and you instantly kill a Genma. And that's what it looks like is being done in an anime, which I really like seeing that. It's really cool, and a lot of what's being done is being done very fast, so it's very much like the games in that regard. Also, what's really cool is that we get other shots of the gauntlet itself, and we could see that it's not like the Dawn of Dreams gauntlet where it's just a magnet that glues on to the armor or to the parts of the armor that are available to a character. It is actually attached to the character's arm, which is something that I really, really hated from a visual standpoint in Dawn of Dreams. So I'm glad that they actually have some visual cues to show that, yeah, this is actually like attached to his arm by some means. It's not just sticking onto him like a magnet or like on a piece of duct tape or something like that. So that was really cool to see. I'm not sure if it's held on to him by rope or some kind of organic material, because it does look a bit organic. So that's a little interesting, and I think that's an interesting take just as far as how the gauntlet has been portrayed, because we've seen it be portrayed as a magnet in Onimusha Dawn of Dreams, and in previous iterations like Onimusha 1 and Onimusha 3, it just had like these metal underparts that allowed the user to slide on the gauntlet onto their own arm. So this is a little more interesting in terms of how it's being portrayed, because it seems like we have some more bioorganic material, which isn't so out of the realm for this franchise. This, I think, is not necessarily a bad take on it per se, because it feels like it's more in line with what the gauntlet is. It has some organic parts to it, and it would make sense that the underpart of it would be more organic as opposed to metallic or nothing at all. So I'm really excited to see this stuff. I was also very much excited to see them recreate the scene from Onimusha 1 where Samanosuke initially gets his gauntlet and activates it, where he's surrounded by Oni souls and they all converge together onto his right arm to form a new Oni gauntlet. It's really exciting to see it essentially being quoted for the most part word for word, and for Musashi to be told to defeat Genma and to seal their souls in his right hand. I was really just so excited to see that nods to the games are being made here, and in a very good way. I'm glad that they're trying to keep some aspects of the games intact with this anime based off of this trailer, and I hope that's going to continue when the full anime releases. Last couple of things that I did notice while I was watching this trailer is that they did mention that they needed to protect the girl. I'm not necessarily sure what her role in the story is, outside of being a character that has mentioned that her parents have been kidnapped and that her whole village was burned down. So I wonder if maybe she is potentially a descendant of the Oni, similarly to Jubei, where Jubei was also a descendant of the Oni, and then his granddaughter was as well. And they were just naturally partially human, partially Oni, and this might be the case with this child character, or it might not be, but there might be some other significance with her, and I'm really interested to see where they're going to take that. Also, what's interesting is that they kind of talk to Musashi and they're saying like, I wonder if you're going to be like broken as a person going through all of this, and he mentions in response, what if I'm already broken as a person? And I find that very interesting, because perhaps they're mentioning that if he goes maybe too far, he'll lose his humanity and become full Oni. And that was something that Samanosuke was very much concerned about, which is why he wanted to seal away the gauntlet. Because if he kept relying on the Oni gauntlet too much and relying on those powers, he would essentially become full Oni, lose all of his humanity, and become like merciless. And that's something that he wanted to avoid at all costs. So I wonder if that's what they're somewhat alluding to. Something that I also wanted to point out in regards to that is that the poster for the trailer kind of shows Musashi's face, at least partially, turning into an Oni. So I wonder if that's what they're getting at here, or maybe they're just mentioning that, oh, well, you're going through this journey and you're fighting all these demons and you might not come back sane from all that. It could be going that route. So after talking about all the significant portions of the trailer, as well as the parts of the trailer that I just got really interested in and really excited about, I did also want to talk about whether or not this anime is potentially canon. I think we have to bring up the fact that this anime could be canon to the games, or it could be going its own timeline, or it could potentially just consider certain games canon and certain ones not. It's something that I'm not fairly certain on. I do believe that this anime is going to be canon, but I don't believe that this anime will take Dawn of Dreams into consideration for the canon. It seems like it's going its own direction. It seems like it's supposed to fill that gap for replacing Onimusha Dawn of Dreams. Because of the fact that Dawn of Dreams, it exists. It takes one of the endings from Onimusha 3 and just runs with that, continuing the story from there. But it conflicts with a lot of the lore that was already established, and it's not a very good game as far as the lore is concerned for Onimusha. So I would believe that this anime would potentially take the other ending from Onimusha 3 and just kind of run with that and go from there. I could be completely wrong, and they could consider Dawn of Dreams still canon, and they could run with some of the ideas that were from that particular game and reintroduce them into this anime. And that's very much possible, but I don't think that that's going to be the case, especially considering the fact that most of the people that have ever looked at Dawn of Dreams didn't even want to touch it, didn't want to buy it. It's not even in the top 100 platinum title list for Capcom. The top selling Onimusha game as of right now is still Onimusha 2. So that should go to show, as far as like what people really wanted and enjoyed out of Onimusha was not what Dawn of Dreams is offering. And I would not be surprised if Capcom just wants to stray away from that game and just disregard that particular game as even canon, because in Japan it's also considered new Onimusha, so it's not like they have to consider that one canon because it's going under a different moniker as opposed to the mainline series, and so is this anime. This anime is not even adopting the Shin or new Onimusha title, it's just going with Onimusha. So the likely case is going to be that it's not considering Dawn of Dreams canon and just continuing forward either from the ending that Dawn of Dreams was continuing forward from, or from the alternate ending, potentially making it so that Dawn of Dreams is a separate timeline, and going from the other ending with Onimusha 3 into this anime, that's a completely different timeline, and they just so happen to be taking place around the 1600s, and they don't necessarily have to conflict, interact with each other. You get the whole spiel. That's what I would assume is the case, but I could be completely wrong, right? And they could involve those aspects of Dawn of Dreams into this anime, and we just haven't seen that yet, right? My hope would be that they don't, but we'll see. And who knows, maybe that stuff will be really cool. I also am very curious to know what aspects of the lore is going to be implemented within this anime. Like, what else are we going to see? Because right now we've seen just basic Genma, some higher level Genma. We have seen the Gauntlet so far, and we've seen what looks like Isen attacks. I wonder if they're going to go further with that. Are we going to see like Oni that are half human, half Oni, like Jubei? Are we going to see souls in the anime? I mean, I know they mentioned it, but we haven't actually seen anybody absorb any of the souls with the Gauntlet or the soul bracelets. Are we going to see the Phantom Realm? Are we going to see any of that stuff that we've come to know and expect out of an Onimusha game make an appearance, or like make some kind of like nod or references within this anime? That's what I'm really curious to see right now. Oh, and I almost nearly forgot to mention too that Musashi is not necessarily new to the Onimusha franchise. We've seen him appear in Blade Warriors as well as the manga for Dawn of Dreams, so it's going to be interesting if they even bring up those appearances. I don't think they will, though, partially because Blade Warriors in particular is just considered partial canon, so Musashi's appearance might not even be canonical to the actual lore. And within the Dawn of Dreams manga, he was still just a teenager, so like they might not even regard that, or like even like consider that as like part of a story element that they should even refer to within the anime. I really doubt it, and I don't know, like maybe they will. I think I'll be proven wrong, but we'll see. I might not be. I might be proven right that yes, they're not really going to draw from Dawn of Dreams as far as inspiration for this story for this new iteration of Onimusha. But I want to know what you all think down in the comment section below. What did you all think of the trailer? Do you all think this anime is going to be canon to the games? Do you think it's going its own route? Do you think it's going into a completely different direction as far as timelines are concerned, since technically speaking we do have two alternate endings and we could lead into alternate timelines? Do you enjoy my cat meowing in the background? I don't know. Let me know down in the comment section below. I'm very interested to hearing what you all think. And if you're new here, or even if you're returning, feel free to drop a like and maybe even consider subscribing if you are new. That being all said, I hope you all enjoyed today's video, and I will see you all in the next one. Matane!